So I'm going to go over the Downtown Public Safety Initiative. This is a 3-year-long project that's been in the works for the last year or so, involves a lot of different community members, and wanted to get you all up to date as to what's happening and see if you all wanted to help in any way. So what is the Downtown Safety Initiative? What's the purpose and what's the objectives, right? So the objective of this is to gather the community members to develop an action plan for reducing violence in the downtown area that focuses on addressing the causes of violence with the ultimate goal of fostering a more welcoming, inclusive downtown. So the key word there is causes, right? So this is really looking at root causes of violence downtown. We've been talking about this issue for many years, but this is a much more progressive way of looking at the issue. We're working with several partners on this. And how this all came about is it was a grant through the Byrne Criminal Justice Initiative. So some of you that are in the business might know BCJI, through the Federal Department of Justice. And the city of Madison, through the Community Development Division, so Jim O'Keefe's division, applied for a grant, probably was about 18 months ago, maybe 12 months ago or so. And they were awarded, a $1 million grant over 3 years. And so they have a 3-year project, which we're going to go over now as to how they're going to move this project forward. But this is all federal funding. There was only a little bit of local funding that needed to go into this. The program in earnest started this year. We received the grant last year and started this year. And as I mentioned before, is headed by the Community Development Division, and they're the grant administrator, which is different than many of these. Oftentimes it is run by MPD, but I think it was very important for the group to get the Community Development Division to be the lead on this program. So one of the key aspects we talked about is causes, right? It's looking at root causes. The second, and I think almost more progressive or revolutionary, whatever the word you want to use is that it's a multidisciplinary team approach. This is really a new paradigm in safety, and really looking at a whole series of players and teams that can be part of this, and thinking that you have to bring a bunch of different groups together to solve the problem. And what is so interesting about this group is, again, it's led by the Community Development Division, but the Public Health Madison-Dane County, through their violence prevention team and led by Ariel Smith, who's part of the task force, they are key players in this, and all the different work that they're doing, looking at violence as a public health issue. And so this is really important. This is one of several initiatives that PHMDC is running. But we are excited to be a part of it. And Ariel Smith, who runs that department, is actively engaged in this project. The grant, yes, it's being administered by the Community Development Division, but then they hire UW Population Health Institute, and Professor Abra Vinya and Janae Goodrich are leading this effort. So it really is looking at this differently. They're the ones that are facilitating the conversations with the public, facilitating the conversations with the advisory group, and they are an integral part of this. And I don't think normally. So it's great to see that connection with UW as well. Obviously, Madison Police Department is part of this, headed up by the Central Precinct Captain Xander Barnes, and then the grant administrator, Jim Powell, are the heads of this. The Neighborhood Association is a part of this. So Capital Neighborhoods, Inc., who is on today or not on today, Eli Judge, Scott Thompson are a part of this, have to keep the neighborhood in. I know we're working with CANA as well on being part of the advisory committee as well. So getting the neighborhoods involved is crucial to this work. And also we are a part of this. We're signatory on the MOU to help with the business community and the other members of DMI. So it's a really interesting group, a multidisciplinary team. And this really is the way moving forward on safety issues. And this is hopefully a model for some things we can do in some other projects that we've talked about in safety as well. And we're hoping that this can couple with a few other grants we're looking at, well, the city is looking at, that we're helping with, potentially of using this multidisciplinary team to really ensure we have a safe and welcoming downtown for everybody. Now, a steering committee was put together of all of those groups, a member of all of those groups that are leading the effort. And part of this position is to hire a coordinator. And they are actively looking to hire a coordinator for this work right now, which will be housed in public health, which I think is quite important. And this coordinator position, it's open, the position, actually, this is just closed, and they're hiring the position right now. At the same time, we've created an advisory council, and the advisory council met for the first time last Thursday for a 2-hour meeting to really talk about what we want to do over the next 2 years. So the grant built in a year to do the outreach with the advisory committee. And this advisory committee, it's fantastic. It has people like the neighborhood associations. You have Gloria Reyes and Anthony Cooper and Ruben Simone and just a whole series of leaders that are part of this conversation. This advisory group is going to help us inform what the actual work should be for the last 2 years of the grant. Things are a little bit slow right now, obviously, because of COVID, but they just met for the first time last week because the vast majority of the $1 million of the fund is going to go into action from the recommendations on what the council wants to put forward. So what will actually happen? How do we create this action plan to have the money spent over the next 2 years? So the advisory council will identify and verify chronic hotspots downtown, working with law enforcement, research partners, and crime analysts. So they've already begun this work. There are certain spots, the aforementioned intersection of Gilman, State, and Broome, at the 500 block of State Street is one of those areas. And they really look at the data, but they look at the data in a little bit different way to look at these hotspots and where can we focus on those hotspots. One of the older hotspot has been obviously the top of state for years. And there's several others throughout the downtown. They take all this criminal data and this information and calls and whatnot and track it and then look for these hotspots. They then identify strategies to reduce the serious crime, particularly drug and gun violence. So take those hotspots, really focus in on those hotspots, and then find strategies amongst the community to help reduce serious crime. At the same time, they're engaging with stakeholders to really build trust amongst the overall community, not just the downtown community. I think this is key, that this is not a short-term project. It's going to take years to be able to work on. And building trust, I think, is important to get the work done. From that, they're going to create an action plan with the priority hotspots and then the strategies to reduce crime. So it brings it all together. And that's what the advisory council is working on right now. But we are, again, in the earliest stages. So if anyone is more interested in either being part of the advisory council or wants to take more involved in this, please let us know. Once you get through the first phase of understanding what the action plan is, then you need to get to implementation, which is important to Madison because obviously you all know we write a lot of action plans and then they get dusty on the shelf. We need to actually create implementation. So in the implementation phase, you're going to take the strategies that were developed in that action and you're going to build then capacity of the residents and then the CBCR, which again is a community-based crime reduction management team based out of those main partners, again, public health, population institute, MPD, and the community development division, the neighborhood, and us to coordinate and engage in those crime-solving approaches. And then we're going to continue to engage with the different partners to continue to build that trust, and then identify and develop strategies for long-term implementation, including an active role of those community stakeholders that you're trying to build trust in. So this is really thinking of this from the community lens and then building upwards, as opposed to coming down with a mandate that we think X or Y is going to help create a more safe environment. So as we mentioned, I didn't change this. This was from the September slide I was supposed to give, but we just met 2 days ago. And they're going to take 6 months as the advisory council to complete their work. And then after those 6 months, we have the following 2 years to spend, I think it's about $600,000 to $700,000 on implementation from this. And so what we want to do is keep the DMI quality of life subcommittee up to date as to what is happening. Get your feedback, get your buy-in. And if there's anyone that wants to participate on the advisory council besides myself, please let us know. We would welcome more people to take part. So that's, a quick 10, 15 minutes on what's happening with the Byrne Criminal Justice Plan and the Downtown Safety Initiative.